This 2023 NFL Tight End Power Rankings edition of the NFL Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Birddogs Shorts. Dominate summer with an amazing pair of shorts and a free Yeti-style tumbler when you order over at birddogs.com/pool. That's birddogs.com/pool.
I'm just about that action, boss.
A full house today for the NFL Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Ryan McIntyre. He's Justin Mark. I'm Rod Villagomez. I'm only used to introducing two, so sorry guys, my bad. Didn't mean to get all that. But yes, a full house today for the show. We are breaking down the tight end position. We're getting to the edge now of all of these power rankings, and that only means one thing, that we're getting closer to the actual season starting. So excited for that, excited to stop putting speculation out there and just get to some hardcore stats. But gentlemen, how are we feeling? Are we ready to rank some tight ends today?
I am. And, I'm impressed with myself because I was able to finish my lunch in less than 60 seconds while the countdown was going on so that we could go live and talk some tight ends. So, yeah, we're off to a good start. Interested to see how our lists differ on this one. I think we can all agree who probably will be at the top, but you could make a lot of different cases for a lot of different guys, I think.
Yeah, I was a little worried about Ryan. He said he was going to finish his sandwich in the next 60 seconds. I thought we'd flash back to video and he'd be joking or something and we'd just be sitting here not being able to do anything. But yeah, tight end it's an interesting position, especially for me, coming from fantasy football. There are very few tight ends that become relevant in fantasy football, but there are some more that maybe they're not there fantasy football wise, but they're still helping their team out. So I kind of had to weigh that when I was making my list.
We say it every time: fantasy versus reality in sports in general. And then of course in football, there's kind of a chasm between, are you fantasy relevant and are you relevant as a tight end? And what really makes you, and this is probably the most difficult position to power rank, because what makes you most valuable as a tight end? Is it your ability to catch passes? Is it your ability to block? Like, why? We always think it's sexy to be a high producer at the position for receiving, but that doesn't always make you a valuable tight end, because pass blocking is a part of that position as well. With Travis Kelce destroying the definition of the position in general, we tend to forget that before it was a pass catching position, you had to block. And that was your main job, was to block for the running game and block for the passing game. So, I know we're a little bit more removed from that now, but do some of these blocking tight ends make you a little more valuable on your team versus being able to catch passes?
I definitely think you can make the case, because that's more than half your job is blocking, like you said. And I think that's what made Gronk so special for as long as he did it. And why he honestly was so injury prone as well is because he embraced blocking, and he was always throwing his body out there and sacrificing his body so that they could win. That's what the Patriots did forever. But you got your elite guys, but then you could argue some of these guys that are more receiving tight ends, how do they rank versus guys that kind of impact winning on an every down basis?
Checking in with the chat here, Nick Fortune, who is great tight end Kyle Pitts. Yes, I was very high on Kyle Pitts last year. No, I am not this year. Yeah,
He's
no,
a blocking
piggybacking
tight
off,
end now.
right. Yeah. And that's why he struggles so much, and they kept pulling him off the field because he doesn't block well.
Yeah.
But no, I agree that the blocking ability is huge. And I think that's why, we talk some of the best tight ends and we throw around names like George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson. And even a couple years ago, we were talking Noah Fant was looking good. These are guys from Iowa. The Iowa Hawkeyes teach their guys to block. Even if you're a tight end, you're also an offensive lineman. And I think that does just make them more valuable when they get into the NFL. Darnell Washington from Georgia, great example. He's with the Steelers now, but it's a big dude who can be a red zone target, but he's also going to be a hell of a blocker. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does.
And that's what kind of sets apart even the guys like Kelsey and Kittle, especially, where they both are good at both. I mean, and like you said, Gronk as well. They all contributed in that main role of a tight end, which is to block, but then have kind of transformed the position into what it is now as an elite pass catcher and somebody who can move the ball for the quarterback and be that safety blanket. And I mean, how we've even seen Kittle and Kelsey, especially, they run go routes too. I mean, they're not just, hitch, or they're not just square in routes. These guys are running go routes against their linebackers and winning those battles. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely a crazy position to handicap and to just even know what's valuable to the team.
I think you hit it right on the head. A lot of teams favor and value different things. Like for example, Nick in the chat, Kyle Pitts, like they were obviously frustrated at Arthur Smith because they want to run the shit out of the ball, and Kyle Pitts was not blocking at a high enough level. So that's why you see him drop from over 1,000 yards the previous year to below 400. I mean, that's as crazy as a drop, and he really wasn't that hurt. So, yeah, no, it's really interesting. It's probably the hardest position to debate, just in terms of, like you said, blocking versus receiving, where you got the old tight end, which was always a blocker, versus the new age tight end, which is basically an extension of the passing game.
Yeah, and Nick also having some great sarcasm here. George Kittle, the best tight end around. Logan Thomas for the Redskins. Oh, maybe he didn't mean the Kittle comment as sarcasm. My bad.
That's the thing about Kittle. We'll talk about him in a little bit, obviously, but yeah, there's a lot to be discussed about all of these, and we're going to get to that exactly after I tell you about some Birddogs shorts. Listen, guys, summer is right around the corner. I'm telling you right now, we all need shorts that are A, comfortable, B, form-fitting, and C, don't leave you sweating like on a Louisiana day. And I mean, listen, I've been in some humid situations before where you literally feel like you are in the bath and all you're doing is walking outside. But with a pair of Birddogs, you don't have to worry about that, because not only are they going to fit you and contour to those thighs and calves that you've got going on, you get long enough Birddogs. I don't know what your preference is, but if you want sculpted calves, if you want anti-sweat wicking, moisture taking away from fabric, Birddogs has got you covered. They fit better than Lululemon. They do the exact same thing as Lululemon. And they also have taken care of that stiff restricting cotton thing that you got going on with the shorts you got right now. They're going to fit. They're going to be comfortable. They're going to keep all the sweat away from you. I'm telling you right now, that anti-stink sweat wicking fabric is going to keep you cool and dry all day long. Everybody needs a better pair of shorts. You do, I do, everybody does. Right now, get yours at birddogs.com/pool. Enter promo code POOL. You're going to get a free Yeti-style tumblers if you needed any more reason to get in on this with your order. That's birddogs.com/pool for a free Yeti-style tumbler you won't want to take off your Birddogs. We absolutely 100% promise you.
And I don't want to derail us too much, but with short names like Coach Cockburns, Forrest Pumps, Fart Garfunkels, Privates of the Caribbean, and Splashed and Kutchers, how can you not want some?
I don't even have an answer to that because I guarantee you're gonna want your pair. I think my favorite one were the Splash and Kutchers. That's actually pretty good.
Right.
I love that.
It is good.
All right. Well, listen, let's dive into this tight end position. Obviously, we have given you our power rankings all season long, given you our top 10 at the position. I mean, Nick's already tossed out a couple of names that we're probably going to be discussing here, but are we going to start with 1 to 10? I always ask you this every time, but I always think it's going to be a different answer. How are we starting? 10 to 1, 1 to 10?
We can start up top this time just because it's probably going to be less dramatic.
I think you're right.
Up top, at least. Yeah.
Everybody on 3, say your top tight end. 1, 2, 3.
Kelsey.
Travis Kelsey.
I had to toss that in there. No, Travis
Keith
Kelsey.
Miller.
Yeah.
Travis Kelsey. All right. Well, Ryan, I guess we'll start with you. Make your Travis Kelsey case, and we'll go around and kind of add on to it from what we think you may have left off.
Oh, man. Let me pull up Kelsey's stats. I don't even really need the stats, to be honest. I mean, they trade Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes' career years because of Travis Kelsey. The last year, 12 touchdowns, almost 1,400 yards. I mean, looking at it right now, 7 straight. Is that 7 or 8? 7 straight years of 1,000 yards or more. Ever since Mahomes took over for Alex Smith, he's just gone to a different level. He's a good blocker. He's unguardable. I think that's the best case for Travis Kelsey, and the only case. Nobody can guard him in this league, and he's not slowing down anytime soon as well.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. 400 yards more than the next tight end. 12.2 yards a reception is huge. 29 plays of 20-plus yards and 12 touchdowns. He's a wide receiver, right? Yep. I mean, he's essentially a wide receiver. He's not a tight end, but he plays the tight end position. So it's hard not to, just like we are unanimously putting him number 1.
And really, it's not as if the Chiefs receiving core has gotten markedly better over the last offseason. You bring in a guy like Kadarius Toney and okay. I mean, that's not anything that's going to make me go, oh my God, that's going to dip into Travis Kelsey's value, because it's not. And I don't care what receiver they put in there, because obviously we saw one of the best in the league in Tyreek Hill right alongside of him, and he was still producing at a high level. So it doesn't matter what name you bring in alongside Travis Kelsey. Travis Kelsey is the centerpiece of that passing game. And just the fact that you haven't surrounded him with anybody of the Tyreek Hill level yet, it says exactly that. And so you want to talk about the most valuable player on his team outside of the quarterback. Obviously, you want to talk about a guy that can produce at that high level. Travis Kelsey checks every single box. And I don't know what list that he's not number 1 on, but I'd sure like to see it.
Yeah, no, you need to drug test anybody that doesn't have him number 1. This is probably the easiest ranking, other than probably quarterback, where the guy throwing him the ball, that it's not really a debate on who. I guess you could argue defensive tackle with Aaron Donald, but I mean, really, he's so far ahead of the other guys, and the guys at 2 and 3 are good too. But Travis Kelsey's 7 years of consistency. JMark just made the point that he 12.2 yards a carry. He did that the year before that too, and the 5 years prior to that as well in a row. So it's like every year, big playability while he can block, and he's a big red zone target for Mahomes.
Does not like Twilight, though. I learned that on his brother's podcast.
Yes.
He's not a fan of Twilight, so.
All right, drop
and
it
he does
down.
not like Joe Burrow.
Right,
Oh,
yeah, that too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then, since number 1 is a lock at Travis Kelsey, obviously we'll talk about some of his betting odds in the next segment after we get done ranking it. Let's go to number 2. Ryan, who do you have as your number 2 tight end in your power?
Yeah, I was between 2 guys, Kittle and Andrews, and I ended up going with Kittle. Just, I think, in fairness to Kittle, with the kind of revolving door at the quarterback position for San Francisco, the injuries, that I give him the slight edge over Mark Andrews in Baltimore. He also, right before that injury in 2019, was almost on pace with Travis Kelsey in 2018 and 19. But I think this guy, when the quarterback position's healthy and he's healthy, is as good as anybody other than Kelsey in the league.
This is where I start, I guess, playing contrarian. I agree that it is an Iowa tight end, but I did not go Kittle. I went TJ Hawkinson.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's really shown the ability, whether it's Jared Goff or Kirk Cousins, no matter who's thrown to him, he can be a top tier tight end. He can take over. He finished second in yards last year with 914. Again, still 400 yards behind Travis Kelce, but he was the second best there. Didn't get as many touchdowns, but I think his ability to stretch the field and also block is the reason that I put him at the number 2 spot.
Interesting. I actually went Mark Andrews at number 2. A lot of the reasons why Ryan struggled with him and Kittle. Look, as a Niners fan, I want to rank Kittle like first with a bullet, but I can't, because the problem is, just like you said, Ryan, the health thing. It's either him healthy or the quarterback being healthy. Those two things have not happened at the same time in a while. And so, when all is right, yes, Kittle is obviously one of the best in the league, hands down. He can block, he can catch passes. He loves blocking. That's one of his favorite. In fact, I think he'd rather block every down rather than play pass catcher. But obviously, that's not what the position calls for. But as for Mark Andrews, look, we talked about this over the course of the offseason that Baltimore wants to sort of shift their attention now, stop being a triple option team and start actually passing the ball more. And that's got to start with Andrews too, because Andrews is one of the most reliable, if not the most reliable over the last couple of seasons, targets for now the newly minted Lamar Jackson. So much so that he did have 1,300 yards in 2021. Down season last year, 847, obviously. But, he only played 15 games. So who knows what he maybe could have gotten 1,000 yards if he would have played all 17. So for me, he checks that box. He's one of the more valuable pass catchers on that team. He's got the talent to back it up. And if we think that Baltimore is going to make a more renewed dedication to the passing game, I think it's going to have to come from Mark Andrews. So give me Mark Andrews at number 2.
Yeah, and I'll go right into it. I had Andrews at 3. So kind of piggybacking off of the points that you made. He obviously had the monster year 2 years ago where he went over 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns. Maybe he makes a jump up here to all our number 2s in the more pass happy Baltimore offense that they're talking about. Jerry's still out. If that makes him a better football team, I think we all agree on that, because we've seen their style of football, their brand of football in Baltimore be so successful. But a lot of the reasons why they've been so successful is the consistency of Mark Andrews. So he's number 3 for me.
I almost slipped him to number 4, but I did put him at number 3. The problem with Mark Andrews is once he catches the ball, he doesn't do much. In 2022, he only had 3 missed tackles and just 3.6 yards after a catch. So for me, it was really hard to put him up at number 3, but it's hard to argue with the fact that he continues to stay consistent, even though I feel like they do not have a great passing game. Mark Andrews is their receiving game. I mean, there were receivers that have been around them, much like Kelsey. There's not been anybody great, though Kelsey had Hill for a while. There's not been anybody great for Lamar to throw the ball to, but Andrews is still able to get open and get the ball. So I had to put him at 3. But like I said, I almost dropped him to 4 because once he gets it, there's not much he does with it.
Yeah. And really, I mean, I put Kittle at 3. So obviously we're all sort of right there. My whole thing with Kittle is the same thing as your guys' and the same with Mark Andrews. It's like, if I wanted to put Kittle over Andrews, I would have to make the case that Kittle's going to stay relevant with all this quarterback nonsense going on right now. And I don't know that I can do that. So I agree. Speaking of all of this speculation, put your speculation to use. We're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Best Ball Mania 4 is here. Underdog is giving away $15 million in prizes. Underdog's Pick'em is also a great way to get down on your favorite MLB and college baseball player props. There's so many ways to get and win over there on Underdog, and it's active in so many states. Draft all the tight ends you want over there on Underdog. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code SGPN. We have all gotten through our top 3 so far. for our tight end power rankings here. So I think this is where it's going to get even more sticky. You've got TJ Hawkinson already in your top 3. Ryan has not said his name yet. So who do we got at number 4, Ryan?
Yeah, I went back and forth on 4 and 5 as well for me. I went Hawkinson. I'm with JMark. I'm pretty high on Hawkinson. And I also just liked what I saw in the 10 games with Kirk Cousins, like JMark already said. Over 500 yards. I think he's gonna have a monster year again. Iowa breeds tight ends. That's for damn sure. So somebody's got to score on that offense. So we know it's not going to be the wide receivers and quarterback play. So it's going to be the tight ends.
That's very true. I can't fault anybody for dissing the Iowa Hawkeye offense. This is where Rod and Nick, as 49ers fans, start panicking of, man, where's George Kittle going to land on his list? Because he's not at number 4. I got Dallas Goedert. Dropped only 2 passes in 2022, 1.76 yards per route, which ranked 5th among tight ends. And just that 96.1% catch rate. He is very consistent no matter when Jalen Hurts is throwing him the ball, if he's under pressure, if it's in the red zone, whatever. He's very good at catching the ball and very consistent. And I feel like he's really underrated. When you're talking about good tight ends, you don't hear his name often. But I had to put him at number 4 because I think that the results just speak for themselves. Yeah, he only had 702 yards, but he also only played 12 games. So a full season, hard to say, especially with how that offense took a step forward last year. Hard to say what he would do. And he does block well on a team that runs the ball a lot.
And that's right there the key too. That's why you don't hear his name very often, is because we are very fantasy centric in this world of football now. And you look at stats and you look at targets and you look at receiving yards, and when they're not there, it's like, oh, all of a sudden he's not a valuable tight end. Well, not Goddard. He's on the field. Like, he's on the field for his team. And that's really what you want out of a tight end right now. That's the thing too. Are we talking tight end power rankings from a gambling standpoint? Because then you start talking about what his value is as far as the numbers are concerned. But yeah, I agree with you on that one. However, Dallas Goedert is not my number 4. It is TJ Hawkinson. And listen, now with Dalvin Cook being gone, right? I mean, Alexander Mattison, give him his credit, whatever. He was a good fill-in running back. I don't think he's Dalvin Cook. That means Kirk Cousins is going to have to probably figure out a way to get Hawkinson more involved, because the touches for Mattison, they'll be there, but I think they're going to get frustrated with the fact that he's not going to be able to produce at a level that they're used to at that running back position, which means Kirk Cousins maybe looks for that comfort blanket a few more times and throws to TJ Hawkinson a little bit more and gets him more involved in the offense. So I think that gives him a little bit of a boost and lands him in my top 4.
Yep, and I got Goddard, the guy we've been talking about, with at number 5. So, Rod, we agree on Hawkinson at number 4, and I got Goddard at 5. I think 5's the perfect place for a guy that's just consistent. He's going to get you, 600, 700 yards a season, 4 or 5 touchdowns, be there to extend drives, move the chains. I think a lot of times you just forget about him because they got A.J. Brown on the outside. They got Devontae Smith. They got the rushing attack. And then it's like, oh, shit, there's Dallas Goedert in between the hashes moving the chain. So, yeah, no, I'm speaking from experience over here because my team plays Philly twice a year. So, yeah, no, Goddard's just Mr. Consistency. And I guess one knock, he has struggled maybe to avoid the injury bug the last couple of years. But for the most part, he's just all really good all-around tight end.
Absolutely. Number 5, this is where I have George Kittle. Now, putting him at 5 is no knock on Kittle. I really like watching him play. He's got that high energy, sort of similar to what Gronk had when Gronk played, that high energy that's just fun to watch. But the reason I got him at 5, partially the health, also his impact in the red zone is not big. And I know part of that's the 49ers offense. I get that. But his first year, 15 games, 2 touchdowns. Second year, 16 games, 5 touchdowns. Then 14 games, 5 touchdowns. 2020, he only played 8 games, 2 touchdowns. Last year, he only had 2021, he had 6 touchdowns. Last year was his first season where he had double digits. He had 11. And I just, because I would need to see him do that again, put up a high production touchdown year again, plus his injury history, plus the quarterback question marks around 49ers. I mean, is it Trey Lance? Is it Brock Purdy? Is it Sam Darnold? It's hard to say. So that's why I knocked him down a little bit. He is a great blocker, Iowa tight end, of course, but the injury and then the lack of touchdowns is why I did drop him to 5.
Oh, Sam Darnold. You know, and it's okay because I bet Sam Darnold, anytime he hears my name, goes, "Ugh, Rod Villagomez." Like, I don't even care.
And what are they doing? Working out Jack Cohn, probably the worst XFL quarterback last year.
It's at least they're not working out Luis Perez. That much I can say. I'm all right with that.
You old Wentz.
Yeah.
It's the only guy you're missing.
I'm gonna close out my top 5. I'm kind of high on Darren Waller right now. I think we forget that he was a 1,000-yard receiver with those Oakland Raiders, and I'm telling you now, or the Vegas Raiders, or wherever he ended up with them. I think he was with them in both cases. Yeah, Oakland and Las Vegas. But yeah, he I mean, a 1,000-yard receiver with Derek Carr. So I think with Danny Dimes, as I hit my microphone, I'm so excited about it. With Danny Dimes, this Giants team is optimistic, and you put Darren Waller in there, and he instantly becomes the best pass catcher, in my opinion, in that core. Right, he instantly becomes the best receiver on the field for Danny Dimes or for Daniel Jones. So for me, I think that puts him in a very good position. Now, all he's got to do is stay healthy and stay relevant, obviously, which is the case for any player on the field. But for Darren Waller, maybe this change of scenery offers him a new opportunity to actually get back to 1,000 yards. And if he can do that, I mean, we're talking definitely top 5 material for Waller. And I think a lot of people are overlooking him this year because of the fact that he's with the Giants now. And maybe it's not a downgrade. I'll tell you that much right now. It's not a downgrade in offensive philosophies. Like, this is literally, I think, the same type of situation. So if he can produce 1,000 yards in a Raiders offense, I think he could do it with a Giants offense as well, especially if he gets a few more targets because of the fact that they're fairly thin at that wide receiver position. We're talking Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, Paris Campbell, right? I mean, Sterling Shepard, the ghost of Sterling Shepard, Jamison Crowder is out there still too, tooling around. So like I said, I think Waller becomes instantly the best pass catcher. We know he can block too. So put him at number 5 for me.
That he is one of the, like, when you're going through a list like this, he's one of the more intriguing ones because of his high variance, where we've seen his upside be in that not Kelsey, but Kittle, Andrews, Hawkinson range, top 5, like we're talking. But then also we've seen him drop in the last previous years. But then on top of it too, change of scenery, get out of Vegas. We've seen guys leave Vegas and have success. So I got Waller in my top 10, but I don't have him at 6. I'm going to go to Steel City for number 6 for me. And we'll go with a former Penn State Nittany Lion, Pat Freiermuth. I love this guy. Just the next really good tight end for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We saw Heath Miller forever. And I really thought when they won 7 out of 9 down the stretch and Kenny Pickett was playing better and better, a big part of this was because of Freiermuth. Just being a guy that embraced blocking too. Because if you're going to be a tight end for the Steelers, you got to be able to run block and pass block. But I thought he really was good down the stretch, and a big reason why Kenny Pickett was able to take some steps in his rookie year.
Yeah, no, and I have Waller and Freiermuth in my top 10, but not next. This is where I probably get canceled. Number 6, I don't know if there's a more versatile tight end than this guy. He's not really even a tight end, but he's listed at tight end. Taysom Hill. He throws the ball. He runs the ball. He catches passes. I mean, he blocks. He does everything. I mean, literally, if you want to break it down and look at a tight end that will do everything, it's Taysom Hill. And I get that he's not really a tight end, but at the same time, he is. They line him up at tight end for run blocking. They line him up at tight end for red zone looks. He'll go in the backfield. He throws the ball. He really is a do-it-all guy, and it's fun to see him on the field. It's fun to watch him, and just because of his versatility, I had to put him high on my list, so that's why I got him at number 6.
Did Underdog, and I love it, Nick, cancel Justin. Yeah. You could do that. You guys are close enough to it. Didn't Underdog start listing him as a tight end too? I think they gave him tight end eligibility.
Yeah,
He's a tight
that's
end
his
everywhere.
position. Yeah.
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 Yep.
So
I mean,
no, that's right. They were fighting for quarterback eligibility.
Yeah.
Tight end is his position. You're right.
Yeah. And he does it all. So I couldn't not put him kind of up there.
That's a spicy take right there. I'd love to see. I'd love to see it. All right. Well, okay. For me, I put Dallas Goedert in there at 6. So you guys have already made the case for Dallas Goedert. I get a Christmas card from Nick. I love it. For those of you not watching in YouTube, I don't know what you're doing. You guys should be watching YouTube for sure. A lot of fun.
If we're not entertaining enough, sorry to interrupt you. Nick is at least.
Oh, yeah.
So
absolutely. That's it. No, but for Dallas Goedert, it's really, again, it's the Eagles still being the Eagles. He needs to block, obviously, with the running quarterback too. And he does it. And he's on the field. Like I said earlier, he's on the field. Like there's no other tight end really that is nipping at his heels for the production that he manages to get. I can't put him in the top 5 because I still feel like there's better tight ends out there. But Goddard's in there. He's in the 6th position for me.
Yeah. I'll go to I guess he's not in the division anymore. A guy that was in the NFC East forever, and he's just another guy I like the guys that are just consistent. You know what you're getting year in and year out. They stay healthy, and he's, they haven't had any playoff success because that's what they do and choke. And that's the former Dallas Cowboy tight end, Dalton Schultz. He's just been really good for Dak the last 3 years. 600 or more yards in the last 3 years. And he had 17 touchdowns the last 3 years. He's actually going over to Houston now. So interested to see his expanded role in that offense with DeMeco Ryans in his first year. But this just another guy that's just consistent and gets the job done.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like that. I will talk about him in a little bit. But at number 7, that's where I put Darren Waller. You guys kind of said it already. This is a guy that if he's healthy, he can be one of the best tight ends in the league. Last year, there was all that, the health questions. Now, this is, maybe he didn't intend for me to say this, but this is from Kramer's mouth, who talked with an insider at Las Vegas. Apparently, Darren Waller was not injured that entire time that he was on the injured list. The organization and Darren Waller were not getting along. In case you don't know, when he was informed that he was no longer on the team, it was on the weekend of his wedding. That there was a reason that they did it then. There was some personal bad blood there. Yeah, exactly. So I definitely think like you guys said, the fresh change, the new city. And again, Rod, you hit the nail on the head here. He's going to be the top option in that passing game. He is going to be the best pass catcher. And Daniel Jones is actually really good at spreading the ball around to guys that don't have a lot of talent. Now let's see what he does when he has a guy who has a lot of talent, like Darren Waller. I think this is going to be a huge year for Darren Waller. I would list him higher, but I have to see what he does first. So for that reason, he's at number 7 on my list.
Yeah, I just think his potential just makes me want to put him at the top 5. I know that, you want to see it, obviously, but I just feel like we're going to see it. And it's just a matter of not if, but when that connection starts to take off. Hopefully it's week 1 for the Giants. If it's by week 4, then they'll take it too, I'm sure. But I think Waller's just going to hit training camp and be a happier man. Now he's married, right? Now he's out of Vegas. He's in a more, forgiving market. No, never mind. He's not. Anyways. So for me, my number 7, I'm at Freiermuth. That's where I'm at right now with 7. Those Steelers tight ends have historically just been the best of the best, right? I mean, it's nothing says blue collar more than the tight end position, and nothing says blue collar more than the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you guys already made the case for Freiermuth and how he can expand his role this season. And I think he will. I mean, again, this Steelers team, after Roethlisberger left, you just wondered to yourself, what is it going to look like now? What is this next level? What's this next generation of Steelers going to be? Right. And they still have to lean on the run like they always have. They still have to lean on their tight end like they always have. But now they've got a younger quarterback. So maybe that the next year of Pickett can bring another level of production to this offense. But, with Freiermuth, you've got that guy who just a beast. He's just a beast. You can count on him to do what you need to do or what he needs to do for you. And I still like him. And at 7, I think that's good. I think it's a good spot for Freiermuth.
Yeah. So we all have Freiermuth in our top 7. And then at 8 for me, I have guys that you've already said. This is where I get Waller. So yeah, I'm tired of talking about the Eagles, Cowboys, and Giants already on this show. You can tell we're getting close to football season, but you guys already laid out all the ideas of why Waller could be really good with Dan Jones. Because Dan Jones doesn't like to throw the ball downfield. He likes to move the chains in. And I think Waller's a pretty good fit there. And like you guys said, there was bad blood, bad vibes in Vegas at the end. And at the end of my list here, 8, 9, and 10, it's more kind of guys that are up and down but have high upside. So he's my number 8.
Just to correct you guys, I did not say Freiermuth yet. He's coming though. But at 8,
oh, you didn't?
I have no. I just
went to Penn State.
Yeah, right. At 8, I have Dalton Schultz. We saw his production in Dallas for years. It shocked me that they didn't re-sign him because he is an important part of their offense. So just shocked me. I probably would have him higher if he was still at Dallas. Now it's going to be, how does he do with a young quarterback in Houston and a offense that doesn't necessarily jump off the page. Now, I know they made improvements this year, but still they have a long way to go, I think, to prove themselves. And he's going to be the guy that's kind of that veteran presence among the pass catchers and that they're going to be looking to really help out the young quarterback. So, and I think he's going to succeed at it. I think he's going to do well at it. He's going to be a consistent and reliable guy. So I got him at number 8.
Houston tight ends have not been bad historically either, right? I mean, they've had some pretty decent tight ends in their time, but yeah, I mean, that's the only thing with Schultz. The talent is there. Obviously, we know it is. It's just how much is it going to be relevant this year with this offense and the way that it looks? At least he gets to stay in Texas, right? I mean, he doesn't have to move too far away.
True.
So it's good for him. Maybe that won't be too much of a jack. All right, so my next one is going to be Evan Ingram. We love our Jaguars, right? We are high on the Jaguar train. So I think that Evan Ingram stands to benefit again from being in Jacksonville for a second year in a row. He had 766 yards, right? 4 touchdowns. That's not super awesome, but when we start talking about the bottom end of this tight end list, 700 yards is not bad on 73 receptions, 96 or 98 targets rather. So I mean that's almost triple digit targets. That just tells you that Trevor's looking for Ingram quite a bit here in this offense. And I think another year of familiarity, Jaguars on the uptick, right? That tight end position is going to be very crucial for their success this season. So give me that as my number. What is that? 7, right? For me?
No, we're at 8.
Oh, that was my 8.
Yeah,
no, you're at 8. I just finished.
We just did 8.
Oh, okay. We did 8.
Yeah. Now we're on to 9, and this one, I don't know. You could argue this guy is the most talented tight end from a receiving aspect. We teased him at the beginning of the episode. He had over 1,000 yards in his rookie year, and coming out of college, out of Florida, he was arguably the most talented tight end, highest upside ceiling guy we've ever seen come out of the draft at the tight end position. Kyle Pitts. It's kind of hard to rank this guy because he's just as talented as Kelsey, arguably, in the passing game, but he's not the blocker that Arthur Smith and the Falcons want him to be. So he's not on the field, and his targets aren't as high. And I know JMark's just fuming over there because he loves him some Kyle Pitts.
Loved. It's a past tense thing. He broke my heart last year, so we're no longer going steady. No, you're right though. I mean, he is a very talented guy. It's just a matter of how he gets used. He left too much of a bad taste in my mouth, fantasy football wise, last year. So I couldn't do it. And then Rod, I think I was having some connectivity problems here, but to just piggyback off your Evan Ingram pick, we should have had a guest on, whereas my wife, Miranda, huge Evan Ingram fan. And on the fantasy football pod, we call her the tight end expert because she always seems to kind of slot them exactly how they should be. But she was very excited with what he could do for the Jaguars, and he proved he could do that last year. Number 9, this is where I have Pat Freiermuth. I don't know. You look at him and you don't think, man, this is the most talented tight end out there, right? But just the way he plays, this is a tough guy who he just embodies that Steelers tight end, right? He just seems like that tough guy who he'll take all those short little passes and get hit. He'll stand in there and block for you. He's a gritty, old school guy. And he's very good at what he does as well. So I had to work him into the top 10. And I thought putting him at 10 was a disservice to him. So he ended up on 9 on my list.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's the thing about it too. When you start getting down at the end of this list, you're just thinking to yourself, well, who's actually going to be relevant by the end of the season, for sure. All right, for 9 for me, yes, I can count, unfortunately. I'm going to put David Njoku in there at number 9. Somebody that I don't know that a lot of people are looking at to be relevant. Obviously, the Browns just aren't anything you want to write home about, but he was the 3rd leading receiver on that team last season, and it wasn't even close. It went Amari Cooper at 1,160 yards. It went Donovan Peoples-Jones at 839, and Njoku at 628. Chubb, 239, was the 4th best receiver on that team. You want to talk about a tight end that's going to get his again this season? I think it's Njoku. And I mean, Deshaun Watson in his 2nd year quite possibly has a better year. I don't know. I feel icky saying it, but he may have a better year this year for the Browns. I don't think he's going to stop that slide of names on that back of that jersey, but I do think that this is another year for him to be able to kind of shore up what he's got. And I just named off the receivers that were better than Njoku on that, and that was only 2, right? But you still got Cooper and Jones. You got Elijah Moore, okay, maybe. But after that, Marquise Goodwin, still not kind of making me excited for the future of this receiving core. But, yeah, I think Njoku's going to be another relevant one, and I think he fits at 9.
Yeah, Njoku's an interesting one because of the whole Deshaun Watson. I considered him for my 10th, but I'm going to get canceled too with JMark, and I went Taysom Hill. I know he's not your traditional tight end, but you're going to get 1,000 yards from him, whether it's passing, rushing, receiving, hell, even returning. And he may play a little defense as well. So I think he just with his flexibility, position flex, he's just such a unique talent. And I think when you get a guy like Derek Carr now in there, where he's better when there's a better quarterback around. He's not good when he's actually the quarterback, but when there's another quarterback with him, that's when he has his better years.
Yeah, I agree. He's not starting quarterback quality, but when they throw him
he's
in
overpaid.
there, yeah, he is definitely overpaid. For number 10, I mean, there's several guys you could put here, right? I like Nick's comment, waiting for me to say Cole Kmet. I considered it because he took a huge step forward last year and became a really good red zone target for Justin Fields. But now Robert Tunyon's there, and so I think he's going to lose some work.
Yeah.
I think Dawson Knox is really good, but he's also going to lose some work now that they drafted Dalton Kincaid. Evan Ingram's really good, but I had to go with David Njoku as well. I mean, this guy, he had Brissett and Josh Dobbs throwing to him for a while last year, and he still finished 8th in yards for tight ends. Now, if Deshaun Watson does come back and is back in his prime, which I know I don't think he will be, but a lot of people think he will be, if he can come back and be that quarterback that he was or even close to it, it's going to be huge for Njoku, who is a very talented guy. Talent's never been the issue. 1.55 yards per route run over the past 2 seasons, which is 8th best out of tight ends. And he's a consistent guy, and he only has 1 fumble in those 2 years. So he's a guy that when you throw it to him, he's not going to lose the ball. So I think he will kind of show up on more radars this year as like, oh man, this guy is really good. We just didn't realize it because he's had shit for quarterbacks.
Yeah, I could only imagine the impact it would have on a team that actually was good at the quarterback position too. I mean, that had the stability. Baker Mayfield, everybody talks about him as well. I don't know. I feel like he got the raw end of the deal when it came to the straw as far as who to pick. All right, my 10th guy, Kyle Pitts. You can't have a conversation without having him in there. I felt like leaving him off. I really did. I thought, maybe I shouldn't, but I think that's just you take the bait, right? It's you take the bait for Kyle Pitts. The upside's there. It is. I don't know what it's going to take for that Atlanta team to actually be able to use him properly, but maybe they figured out. Maybe he makes a more concerted effort in camp to speak up and say, all right, man, this isn't my first year anymore. Like we need to shore this up, and I need to be a part of that. And if he does, if he takes a leadership role, then maybe he's in for a really good season this year.
His over under is probably one of the more intriguing over unders just all in the whole NFL, just because he could go way over or he could just have another dud of a season. So I know you can say that with a lot of guys, but he's such a high variance guy with just how he's utilized.
Well, his over under, let's just jump right into him. It's obviously they were taking this to a gambling aspect. So we'll talk about some of these player totals. His over under sits at 700.5. The over is at minus 120. The under is at plus 100. So even money for the under, the over a little slightly juiced at minus 120. I would take the over on 700, and I would do it because it's not juiced up enough to make me not want to do it, right? This is a decent enough price for me to say I would take it. Of course, I'm not taking it because I don't want to take any futures on Kyle Pitts. But if you were somebody that wanted to do that, I would probably lean more on the over on this one.
Yeah, I'll go over. Not a lot of confidence, like for all the reasons I already talked about. He's got 1,400 yards in 2 years. So, yeah, let's put the over-under at 700, right smack in the middle, where he had over 1,000 his rookie year, then came all the way back down to 356 this last year. I'll say he bounces back. He also missed 7 games last year, so I think that was another reason why he didn't get it. So even as bad as he was last year, or statistically as bad as he was, he still was almost at 400 yards, and with an extra 7 games, he would have been right around 700, even with how underutilized he was.
If you listened to Old Fashioned Football last year, I was so high on Pitts. In fact, we called it my Pitts passion. I just can't do it anymore. He's under until they prove that they can use him properly in that offense for me. And real quick, just going to the chat, Questionable Bet says, what do you guys think about rookie Sam Laporta for the Lions? Locally hearing good things from OTAs, and Kittle thinks he's a beast at tight end. I think he's not going to be too far behind. I don't think he's going to be TJ Hawkinson right away. Don't get me wrong. But I think he's going to be able to fill that role pretty nicely. And it's only going to be probably 2 years before he is putting up big numbers. And maybe we're talking about him in this top 10 list. I think he's going to do really well.
And right now he's the top tight end on the depth chart pretty much. So the job will probably end up being his with very little competition. So definitely look for his name to come up a lot, I think, over the course of the season, just from a production standpoint. So I like that. All right, let's take a look at Travis Kelce's over under. His over under is at 1150.5. So they think he's going to get 1,150 yards or 1,151 yards. The over on this one is actually the plus money side of this at plus 115. The under is at minus 140. Given everything we just talked about, as far as, this receiving core has not jumped off the page and gotten a whole lot better. Does Travis Kelce get 1,151 yards this season?
So this is kind of like when we did our quarterback one, where Mahomes, there was a number out there for Mahomes. I don't exactly remember what the exact number was, but Mahomes had gone over it 4 out of the last 5 years, just like Kelce has. Something reeks here. I'll go under. I'll go contrarian under here. There's something not right with Mahomes and Kelce's over unders. Maybe a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover and they come out slow out of the gate.
I think Andy Reid's too good of a coach, so I'm taking the over. I don't think he's going to let them get that Super Bowl slumber. Yeah, so I'm going to go over on that one.
I mean, this one is one that I don't think you can get cute. And the fact that the books are even giving this to you at plus money, I mean, 1,338 yards last season. I don't know that unless he's not on the field, there's no way he's not catching at least 1,200 yards this season. I mean, it's just, he's that good. And now he's not sharing with Juju Smith-Schuster either. Like, again, it's just a matter of Kelsey is the main guy in that offense. And I don't care if it was 1,200, I would probably still take it at 1,200. So definitely taking the over at plus money. Yes, please. And this is one I would not be afraid to bet if you like betting futures. Again, it's hard to say. It's hard to want to lock your money up in futures, but I suppose if you have 8-9 months to wait for your money to come back to you, then that's what you're doing.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, all right, let's scroll through George Kittle. His over under set at 725.5. Both sides of this are equal at minus 110. 726 for George Kittle this year. If he stays healthy, yes, but that's very, very. This is one I'm not placing a bet on at all.
I'm with you, Rod, and for the same reasons, his health, but also their quarterback's health, where the big unknown, who's going to be the quarterback and how long they'll be the quarterback. How is Trey Lance going to be the guy? I mean, there's rumors that Brock Purdy might be back at a decent time, but we don't know. I mean, there's still so many unknown factors. I'll go under if I had to go side, but I don't feel good about this one. From a talent standpoint, it would be an easy over, but with the moving parts in San Francisco, I would have to lean under as of June the 27th.
I'm taking the under, and I'm feeling good about it. He does get banged up because he's an aggressive player, so I think he'll miss at least a game or two. The quarterback issue, I mean, I think if Brock Purdy's there, then you can maybe think that he could hit that over. But you got to remember, they don't have Jimmy G to fall back on anymore. And Jimmy G is one of the reasons George Kittle was so relevant, because Jimmy G, for love him or hate him, he's a consistent quarterback that can get Kittle the ball. And I don't think Trey Lance can do that. I don't think Sam Darnold can do that. I don't know if Brock Purdy's going to be healthy. So for me, I'm definitely going with the under and feeling good about it.
It hurts. It hurts. I think the 49er fan in me, you take the other two guys because I'm biased in that situation. So I love it. All right, let's talk about Mark Andrews. 875.5 is his point total. Plus 105 for the over, minus 125 for the under. I mean, for me, like I said, I'm going to have to go on the over on this one. I think Mark Andrews could very easily get 1,000 yards if everything that we're hearing is right. And I think even if it's not 1,000, all he needs is 876 to cash this bet, and a plus money again. It's like the books are baiting you, and I'm taking the bait.
Yeah, so this is another interesting one because they're changing styles, but I think I go over here as well. And I don't know if it means more wins for the Baltimore Ravens, but they're clearly, at least the first 2 months, are going to throw the ball more until it becomes cold and they need to win games. So I think that they really want to appease Lamar out of the gates. The only thing that I hesitated a little bit was they brought in Odell Beckham and then drafted Zay Flowers. So couple more options for Lamar Jackson, but he still loves him some Mark Andrews, so I'll go over.
Yeah, I'm going over as well. I know people might point to Lamar Jackson's health, but Mark Andrews actually kind of stepped up the game a little bit when Jackson was out. I don't think that affects him because he is such a good player. Had he not missed those 2 games, he likely would have hit this over last year. And then Odell Beckham, in all his glory that he was for a couple seasons, it doesn't scare me. I mean, he's an older receiver now. He's on the back end of his career, coming back from the knee injury. He's not going to be the same guy. And then Zay Flowers, to me anyways, wasn't overly impressive in college. So this whole offense is going to, in the passing game anyways, is going to run through Mark Andrews. And I think Todd Monken from Georgia, their offensive coordinator, I think he runs a really good offense. I mean, we've seen Georgia dominate, and I think he's going to be able to get Mark Andrews involved even more. So I like the over here.
Yeah, and I know questionable bets too. A lot. He carries that same philosophy that a lot of people do too, is that Odell Beckham's going to jump back on the field and become that guy that made that one-handed catch. His over-under right now is set at 575.5, by the way, Odell Beckham. If that tells you something, it's not a gigantic number to get over. So if you're on that, that's what you want. But I mean, Odell, even with the Rams, like he had those games where it was like, oh man, Odell's back. And then you realize, no, he's not. He's a talented player that can make plays. And listen, I'm way past my prime too. So I'm not even here to judge anybody, but I'm just saying, like, if you want to think of Odell as the guy that we remember him as, like, nostalgia gives us some weird colored glasses where we tend to see what we want to see. But when you really take a step back and look at that, just not necessarily something I'm excited about for Odell Beckham. And I don't think he's going to make as gigantic of an impact as people think. He'll be fun to play with. I mean, that's fine. They'll have some plays to him and he'll make some fantastic plays and you'll go, Odell's back. And then he won't be. And that's just going to be all season long.
Rod, as a podcaster, you are in your prime, just so you know.
I get limp calves all the time when I'm talking. It's weird. I don't even use my calves.
I don't even think you've reached your prime yet. You're entering it right now. Many years to come.
This just became Rod's favorite show.
That's why I keep you guys fun. I'm going to play this back when I start to feel down. All right, couple more.
As long as JMark and I don't have to host.
I hear that a lot. It's weird. Dallas Goedert, 675.5. The over juiced at -120. The under is actually the plus money side of this at +100. We talked about it. Talked about Philly. Talked about him being important to Philly. Can he get to 676? That's the question.
I hope not, but I think he will. We laid out the case. He's Mr. Consistency for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's the security blanket for Jalen Hurts. As long as he stays healthy, he gets this easy, I think. Last year in 12 games, he went over this.
You said 676, right? That's what I don't get. This line is funky to me because he missed 5 games and hit 702 last year. So the over feels too easy, I think, but I gotta jump on it either way.
I mean, and at only -120, that's not necessarily a gigantic juice to pay for that. So yeah, I like the over on that one as well. Again, he's on the field and he does what he needs to do. They reward that in Philly, and he's one of the recipients of that. All right, Evan Ingram at 640.5. Both of these sides, the over under at -110. Books don't know. Do you?
Oh man, Evan Ingram. I like the over here too. It's common theme in this Jacksonville Love Fest. He came on strong the last 10 games where they won 9 out of 10, including a playoff game. I think Jacksonville comes out of the gates hot with Trevor Lawrence, continues that momentum, and I think Evan Ingram's a big part of it.
My only concern is we're talking about guys coming back. This guy does not scare me, this guy will provide more of a receiving threat than Odell Beckham, and that's Calvin Ridley. How is he going to fit into that offense, and will he take some of that? But I still think the defense is going to be focusing on Calvin Ridley, right, and those receivers. So I like Evan Ingram to hit the over again.
766 last year for Ingram, so I'm on the over as well, just from a standpoint of I think he can get somewhere near that again this year. Couple more, and then we'll sail off into the sunset. Kyle Pitts. Oh, we talked about him, right?
We already did him.
Never mind. I just saw his name again, so I was like getting all excited about maybe we talk about Kyle Pitts. Did we talk about Darren Waller?
We did not.
Darren Waller. 700.5 for him. Same number as Kyle Pitts. How much respect does Darren Waller get in this instance?
So back-to-back years under this, but the 2 years prior to that, he was over 1,100 yards. Another one where if he stays healthy for 17 games, even 15 games, we'll say, he gets over this. I'll go over with Darren Waller. I think they're going to make a strong effort right out of the gate to get Darren Waller the ball and make him a big part of this offense and make him known that he's wanted.
Yeah, I like the over as well. Like I said, I think last year was kind of a fluke. And like you said, Rod, he's the best pass catcher on this team, and I think he's going to get the ball a lot.
Well, and you look back at Evan Ingram having a couple of okay seasons with the Giants. His best one was 654, and that's Evan Ingram. That's the tight end situation they had there. Obviously, we think Darren Waller is a much better tight end than Evan Ingram. So Yeah, I mean, I like the over on this one too. I feel like this is a whole lot of a trap because at 700 yards, he could get that through the first 7 weeks if they actually play their cards right. Honestly, he's that capable of doing it. So we'll see how that pans out. Last but not least, David Njoku, 550.5 yards. The over at -105, the under at -115. Do we think Deshaun Watson can make Njoku a 551-yard pass catcher?
Yes, I do. JMark already kind of laid it out earlier. He went over 600 yards last year with all the quarterbacks ups and downs of Jacoby Brissett, who actually was way better than Deshaun Watson last year in Cleveland. I think Deshaun Watson's actually going to be pretty good this year. I think I'm in the minority. So if that's going to be the case, I think the Njoku is a big part of it, and he goes over.
Yeah, I like the over as well. Brissett and Dobbs got him there. Well, and Watson for 6 games. They got him there. So I think just Watson, if it is just Watson, obviously, I think that he definitely hits that over.
Yeah, 628 last year on 58 catches, 80 targets in 14 games. Yeah, I think this is such a low number. And Questionable Bets has got it right. I mean, a lot of low numbers. It's because the books don't know how to handle tight ends either. Like, it just feels like the world is always perplexed when it comes to tight ends, and yet every year they outperform what we think they're going to in going into the year. So when they set these numbers, they don't want to get burned because they don't want to set it too low, right? But then for us, it's like, look, it is low, and that's a very low number. You think 700 is a high number for a tight end, and it's really not when you're talking about some of these guys that are as talented as a Waller, as an Ingram, as, you know, any of these guys that we've talked about. And Njoku only having to get, what did he say, 42 yards in a game? That's easy for a guy like those guys to hit. You know, those numbers, when you break it down like that, they're not as scary.
Completely agree. Yep.
So, all right, gentlemen, we have done a tight end episode. That is in the books now. Everybody can go and replay this at their leisure and get the numbers that you need. Hopefully you grab the right ones, and hopefully you get them at plus money like we want on a few of those. But yeah, I mean, I'm ready, man. I'm so ready for this season to start.
Yeah, because after 4th of July, that means football's right around the corner. Training camp. You know, I'm watching. I got TV on today, the 4-letter network, and you know it's the dog days of summer because the topic at this time of year is always, are the Dallas Cowboys? Is this the year? Is this the year Dak Prescott gets over the hump? I'm like, oh, well, the last 10 years didn't matter, so maybe this is the year. So yeah, we're in the dog days of summer.
I know you love seeing that all the time.
Oh, it's every year. I'm like, no.
No. Quick shout out to the guys that finished 3rd for most touchdowns among tight ends with 7, Juwan Johnson and Cole Kmet. 2 guys that we didn't really talk about, but kind of surprising names that you don't expect to be there for touchdowns. So yeah, I'm excited for football season, excited to take. I already took some of these over and unders as we were talking about them. So now it's just, we just sit here and wait and hope that it pans out.
Indeed. The waiting. Although, man, I'm telling you right now, spring football fans just hated what you said. Football's been here. It's been here the whole time.
It has been.
Never.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go around the horn once and let everybody know where they can find us on social media so they can continue to follow us all throughout the off season and all the many things we've got going on in this network.
At Moneyline_Mac, college basketball experience. The portal never stops. And we have a new show after 4th of July, the Big 12 college experience, where we'll cover Big 12 football, basketball year round. And we will be back later this week to do defensive power ranking. So make sure you got your notifications and subscribe to the NFL Gambling Podcast.
Big 10's better than Big 12.
Fake news.
Follow me on Twitter at JMark Football. Check out Old Fashioned Football in July. We got 3 interviews coming up. They should be fun, so make sure you check that out.
Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio to everything I got going on. NASCAR Gambling Podcast. We're going street racing in Chicago this week. It's a must listen. None of us know what's going to happen, so if you're new to NASCAR, it's a perfect episode to join because we're all just learning this track and we're all just figuring it out. So you'll be just as much in the learning with us as we go. And then of course the F1 Gambling Podcast we are back again. Austria is the place and the track, so check that out as well. Yeah, like Ryan said, defenses are next on the list. Keep it locked. Keep it that bell ringing to let you know when it's coming up. We will see you then. And until next time, everybody, let's get some football going. And of course, as always, let it ride.